Bill. Thank you so much for coming and having this interview with me today.
Well, thank you, Sherry. I'm out front shaking signs anyway, so it wasn't that hard for me to get here this morning. I just walked across the parking lot.
Right. Well, so Bill Powers, as all of you know, is our current state senator for District 22. Sorry, that just kind of fell out of my head. I couldn't think. District 22. So today we're just going to take a few minutes and get to know Bill and where he stands on veteran issues. So Bill, can you just let everybody know that doesn't already know you a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Sherry, for having me here today. This is a forum that I look forward to doing. I am just a product of local schools. I've lived here pretty much my entire life. I have had a couple of stints in Washington, D.C. Actually, I worked for a fellow by the name of Howard Baker, who was a senator from Tennessee. And I went to high school as Senator Baker's page. And then after I graduated the University of Tennessee, I went back to work for Senator Baker. So I have done some other things other than being around here. But for the most part, I went to Smith School, Greenwood, and Clarksville High. And from there, I went off to the University of Tennessee. I was an honor graduate there in 1979. Came back, started working at Acme Boot. Then my father-in-law, after I got married, talked me into selling cars. And I've been at Wyatt Johnson for the past 32 years. I've been selling cars, and our business certainly has morphed into a pretty good-sized operation these days. We've got 9 franchises in 5 locations and a couple of body shops and a buy here, pay here. So what am I? I guess I could say I'm a local businessman, but I've also done a couple of terms on city council, as well as various and sundry boards around town. So been elected 2 terms to city council. So I'm a local politician. I'm a local product of public schools. I'm a local businessman, and I'm a local politician for the last 5 or 6 years.
Awesome. Thank you for telling me all that. And so what motivated you to run again? After having done it once, you didn't learn your lesson, so you decided to do it again.
You know, I'll tell you, the only reason that I really run is to do good things for for Montgomery County, and that's why I did city council, do good things for Clarksville. But this is a bigger region, and I also encompass Stewart counties and Houston counties, and that's broadened my horizons. And but why do I run? You know, I'm really I'm an infrastructure guy. I was chairman of Gas and Water for the city of Clarksville, and I was also on the power board at CDE. So infrastructure is kind of my thing. Being at CDE board actually gave me a leg up on the issues concerning rural counties, and of which Stewart and Houston are. It gives me a leg up on the internet service, because it's sad, but in Dover I had somebody come up to me and said, you know, I have to take my son every night to McDonald's so he can do his homework. Well, that's not right. And we have the same thing going on here in Montgomery County on the outskirts of the county. That also happens. So
Sure,
fortunately,
I live on the end of Dotsonville Road.
Okay,
So I feel
you
it.
understand.
I'm there, yes.
But fortunately, we have in our area, we have Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation, known as CEMC, and they are expanding their broadband division, or opening up basically their broadband division, and they are going to take on, I think they serve 5 or 6 counties in Middle Tennessee. So they are currently going through Stewart County and putting up cable service, and they have to run it to everywhere that they have electric service. So if CEMC has electric service, they have to run a cable there for internet. And so that's been an interesting thing for me to do. But I just look for ways to help Montgomery County. I always have. One other thing that I do, I can tell you that ever since I've been on city council, my very first paycheck, I said, you know, I'm going to donate this. And so I got my check, and I wrote a check for $376. And since then, I've continued every month. When I get paid, I sit down and write a check to a local nonprofit. of my choosing. There's not a sweepstakes. It's not a. I just determine who I want to give it to. I've given money to the VSO here, but also the Manna Cafe, the Loaves and Fishes, the Veterans Coalition, the Clarksville Area Down Syndrome, various and sundry, the United Way, anybody want to, and it just feels good to do that. And I'll tell anybody that listen that I sell cars for money, but I do public service for fun.
Right.
I honestly enjoy it.
I get it.
I honestly enjoy it. So it's and that's kind of what keeps me pumped, and it's what keeps me going. I love the city. My parents grew up here. All my grandparents, great grandparents are all buried in the same cemetery over on Greenwood Avenue. So I'm just a local yokel, but I've got a real heart for service.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when you did the resolution for the Veterans Coalition, that was the first recognition that had actually been in the coalition's name. Everything else had kind of, when you're the face of something,
right?
Everything had kind of been in my name, and that was the first time something was in the coalition's name. So that was extra special for everybody.
Well, I didn't know that, but
no, I know.
Let me write that down so I can remember next time. But it's just doing good and recognize others that do good, and I think that's important, and that because there's a lot of selfless people in this town that give of their time and talents and treasures, and for me, I don't have much time, so I end up writing checks, and that's enough for me, because
as the leader of a nonprofit, let me tell you, we have no issue with check writing.
Let me also throw in here that my youngest son's a special child, and Henry's he doesn't talk. He's a nonverbal child, and he's 25 years old. Didn't start walking till he was almost 5, and anyway, he's a blessing to my wife and I. And he's had over 20 surgeries. So he certainly is a special child for my wife and I, and we wouldn't change a thing. Can he be trying? Oh yeah. Yeah, he can be trying, but he's just a good little buddy to have around.
Yeah, I have one on the spectrum, and I know what you mean. They can be trying, but man, they're also, just like you said, such a blessing to your heart,
Henry's good kid.
Speaking of, doing things out in the community, what are you planning for our veteran community? What are your plans to help the veteran community?
Well, one of the first things I did when and I took Mark Green's place in the state Senate the end of April of 2019. So I've been there roughly a year and a half. Got another 6 months. My term expires at the end of the year. But one of the first things that I did was I petitioned the lieutenant governor and said, basically, Lieutenant Governor, I'm from Montgomery County, the most patriotic county in America as far as I'm concerned, and I need to be on the Veterans Caucus. And the Lieutenant Governor agreed with me, and so he put me on the Veterans Caucus. And through that platform, I've been able to help and try to figure out I met Steve Singleton through there, and others. I know a lot of veterans. You talked about Steve Baird a second ago. Steve Baird ran cross country with my brother in high school. So I know a lot of the veterans. Ivan Adamas, I went to school with his sister and brother.
And you worked with Jason and with Jason and Mary and Yolanda on the Women Veterans Day.
That's a great story too, and I've got it down here to talk about. But Women Veterans Day was something that I guess had just never been, and
it's a no-brainer.
Nobody told me no that I couldn't do it, so I jumped on board to get Women Veterans Day up and running in the state of Tennessee, and I was in state and local. Basically, the way these things work, you go in there and you get in the well and you got the microphone and you tell everybody that's on state and local committee why Women Veterans Day should be recognized by the state of Tennessee. And so I told them all why, and it was pretty easy for me being from Clarksville. And then they took a vote, and the vote passed, I guess, for the very first time. In the back of the room is Mary and Yolanda, and they go, woo! and I had no idea they were even there. So I thank the committee for their work, and Yolanda and Mary and I went. Mary Ross, by the way, Mary Ross and Yolanda and I took them up to my office, and we had a great time. We kind of recounted the day. It was a great time. So Women Veterans Day. Unfortunately, Women Veterans Day was only for this year. So my quest for next year, my quest for next year is to make it a national or a statewide, but I want to make sure that it occurs every year. So that's what I'll be doing. Nice. One other thing that I did, and it's kind of related to veterans and not, there's a lot of veterans obviously on the GI Bill at Austin Peay. And I had a $42 million health science center going in at Austin Peay. It was going to allow us to double the size of the nursing program at Austin Peay. And I'm sure there would be, if there weren't veterans in there, probably children of veterans, or, there's just a lot of non-traditional students over there. And we had that done, and COVID got us. But I'm certain, on the list of the top 10 projects statewide, it was like number 2. And they do what's called a rubric, and they look at your need and your grades and people that apply and who get whatever. Just a lot of different factors go into it, and we were number 2 on the list. So if there's ever any money, which hopefully there will be next year, that will be brought back up. But that is something that we need to do. The other thing that got kicked in the pants at the with the COVID was I had a DMV, a Department of Motor Vehicles, on Fort Campbell.
Yes,
and it was in there, and it was going to happen too. No, it has not. It will. It's another one of those things that just anything at the end of the year that had what they term a fiscal note, which basically means if it cost any money, it got kicked out. And even though it was minimal, we were able to get Fort Campbell to actually give us the rent. They were going to say, you can have this building. It's an old H&R Block building, believe it or not, out there at Fort Campbell. You can have this building if you'll put a DMV up, because they understand and realize it's a service to them. In doing research, I can't tell you how many times I went to our local DMV and stood out there and watched people show up only to find out they were one piece of paper short or something like that. Had to go all the way back to post. So this would eliminate that. I think we would probably limit it to active duty dependents and maybe civil service. I don't know. We'd start out. We would have to start out somewhere. But that's still in the works. Everybody agrees it's a great idea. And unbeknownst to me, I found out that at the Pentagon, the state of Virginia has one there. I thought I was a pioneer. I had thought of something, but they have one at the Pentagon. I heard Fort Stewart has one in Georgia. I heard Fort Sam Houston has one. So we're not groundbreaking here. We're just doing really what needs to be done and hasn't been done in the past.
Well, Bill and Steve and I and different ones, we do look at what other states are doing to see, that's a good idea. Why aren't we doing that? And try to adopt that. And certainly when you're writing legislation, it's easier to, change one to fit what your needs are, versus start from scratch.
So, I'll be looking for those things. I understand that Fort Campbell's important. One of my favorite stories was when I was growing up here in the 60s, and General Westmoreland was commanding general at Fort Campbell. And at the time, he was having a little bit of trouble with the local community. And so he made the decision to pay everybody, the entire payroll, soldiers, civil service, everybody, in $2 bills, so that the community would understand the importance of.
What a great!
The importance.
He
did do that. General Westmoreland did that, right? And it was like the mid '60s. And,
I wish I could do that.
Isn't that great? That's a great idea.
Amazing, yes.
It's paid everybody in quarters or something.
Veteran compensation, and that way everybody would really see how much money went into our local economy from our veterans.
Yeah. So, but that's what happened. That's one of those, just you hear from being from here, born and raised. But anyway, my favorite story about.
Well, the coalition, as I had mentioned, Bill and Steve and Mary, and we've always been blessed that our legislators have always backed us, since we did the first Veterans Day on the Hill. They've been so good to back us on our legislation, help us even in the beginning, teach us things we needed to know in order to be successful. We've been able to count on you thus far. I'm assuming we will continue to be able to count on you to have an open door.
Let me tell you one other thing too. My father fought in the
Mhm.
Korean War. My oldest brother, the one that knows Steve Baird, they ran cross country. He went to the Air Force Academy, and so he's a retired Air Force. Did 21 years in the Air Force. I have a nephew that just got out of the Marines, and I have another nephew that's currently in the Air Force. So I understand the military just by virtue of living here, but also through my family. In fact, right up here on the wall next to, or on the Madison Street up here, I have a great uncle whose name is on there. He sacrificed all. His name's Talmadge Powers, right in front of the health department over here.
Yeah.
You know where the monument is
Yes.
over there, but my great uncle is on there, Talmadge Powers. So I understand the sacrifice. I understand what they have to do, and honestly, for me, it's just an easy transition to start helping soldiers. You know, I even though I never was there, I kind of did my time in Washington D.C. working for Senator Baker. You know, when the time that most folks would have done service to their country, I did service to the country a little bit different, working for Senator Baker, and certainly enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, so what would you like people to know about you that we either didn't discuss today, or you think maybe is little known?
You know, the things that make me a little different, and are also the things that the reason that I'm where I am today. You know, I'm a product of local public schools. I was on 2 terms of the city council. I'm one of the owners at Wyatt Johnson, and I've been there for 32 years. I've been on the Roxy board for downtown. I've also been on the Economic Development Council, the ones that, you know, get companies to come in here, the Hancooks, the Atlas BX, all of the people out there in the industrial park. I was also on the Visitors and Tourism Board. I was chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the city of Clarksville. I was chairman of Gas and Water for the city of Clarksville, and I was at one time was chairman of Parks and Recreation for the city of Clarksville. So I have a broad spectrum of things that I know in Clarksville, Montgomery County, and I think that's what makes me a little bit different. In addition to that, I've just been around here for so long. I know all the players, you know, and I know who to call when I need to get things done, and I'm not scared to do it. It's the other part.
Like you said, you know, you've been going out to Stewart and Houston County a great deal. I used to live in Bumpus Mills, and that access to internet is just so important. I was going to school while I was out there, and there were a lot of times you got to go to the library, because even if you have internet, you don't have it that day.
Internet, as I see it, is no different than electric, water, any of your other utilities. I think it needs to be there. That's right. COVID also is just totally changed things.
Initially, you know, I did not think of, you know, Stewart County initially, but then after you have a moment to breathe, you went, wait, we're having these issues here. How are people working from home in Stewart County?
Yeah.
It's Houston County. Oh my goodness, you get out in Tennessee Ridge. So yeah, that's
Tennessee Ridge has a service called People's Net, but literally the people in Stewart County outside, they literally have nothing. You know,
what you do gets really expensive too.
It's expensive, and it's not very good.
And it's not very good, right? You got to watch a video.
I can tell you, we did 2 meetings here. We did actually one in Dover at the Visitor Center, and we did another one out here at the TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, out in the industrial park. When they brought out the broadband, they call it Cumberland Connect. And I have never, Sherry, been to a meeting where there wasn't a naysayer in the room. You know, every time you bring up something and you're going to do something, somebody's going to say, that's a dumb idea, you shouldn't do it, you're wasting taxpayers' money, you know, yada, yada, yada. There was not either place. The only questions were, how much is it going to cost? When's it going to be here? Can I get on the list? Right. You know, I mean, it was all questions related to help.
Yeah.
And I've never ever seen the type of yearning for a product and coupled with the no naysayers at all. It was just fascinating, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and speak to the coalition, and I will look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to coming back to be with you every month.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.